We've got the most impactful jobs report that we've seen in a number of months now. Today, the jobs report for July came out, factoring in information from June. What we've seen is the unemployment rate has jumped to 4.3%. Remember, we were floating around 3.7% for a very long time. And over a series of months, we went up to 3.9, then we went to 4.1. Now we're at 4.3%. Just a clear trend that we have an increase in unemployment. My name is Jason Roberts. I'm a recruiter. I've been a recruiter for 25 years. More specifically, I'm an analyst in the recruiting space. I want to walk through exactly what the unemployment report says and what that means for people looking for jobs today. All right, so here's what we see. We got a couple of different things that have changed today. The big deal is the number of hires has shifted. So we had 179,000 new jobs that were created 2 months ago. That's down to 114,000 in this jobs report. So we're seeing a slowdown and a decrease. The video I just released before this talked about that quite a bit. The number of hires has decreased significantly, and the number of quits is also pretty low. It's holding steady right now. The number of people quitting jobs is holding steady. That 175,000 from last month, that was revised. That's a revised number. It was actually reported higher and revised downward. They do that quite a bit. I haven't seen them revise upward in a very long time. So this 114,000 that we have today, that actually may be revised. If they follow their current trend, that will likely be revised downward. So all this to say, the market is cooling further from where it has been. This may sound like terrible news. I think it probably does sound like terrible news, mainly because it already felt like it was really hard to find a job. What I'll tell you is this is backward leading data. So we can see data from June in this report that comes out in July. So we're always looking backwards. So what you've been feeling in the last month, this report is saying, oh, this is what's going on. So we were right. We felt like it was really hard to find a job. The data says, oh, here's why it's really hard to find a job. It's finally catching up with us. And I'm not surprised at all. Wage growth, this is a really important thing. Wage growth has also slowed. It's down to 3.6% year over year. It's down from 3.9% before in June. That slowdown is actually a little bit helpful. What it does is it points to the fact that the Fed needs to cut rates. The Fed cuts rates in September. I think things start to loosen up and people get more comfortable changing jobs. The economy starts to say, okay, it's easier to borrow money. People get less worried about cash flow. When it's more expensive to borrow money, companies are less likely to get themselves into a situation where they'll have to borrow money in order to maintain cash flow. So they're much more careful in their hiring. And as a result, you see sort of this log jam tighten up. So when the interest rates get higher, the labor market tightens quite a bit. When the interest rate starts to lower, the labor market should open up. And it looks like that's going to happen. The indicators, unemployment going up, wage growth retracting some, those things are going to encourage the Fed to cut interest rates. And that ultimately, I think, is going to loosen up this logjam we have in jobs and make it easier for people to find jobs. So more new jobs will open. We've seen a significant decrease in hires, significant decrease in open jobs that I've shown in a chart from Indeed in the past. And I think that will continue to be the case as time goes forward as well. One thing that is interesting, the labor participation rate expanded some, but the new people filing for unemployment, that grew significantly more than we have seen in the past. So what does all of this mean? What this means is there's a cooling across the U.S. economy. The economy itself is starting to soften up a little bit. And I don't know why it hasn't up to this point. It should have up to this point, but now we're starting to see that cooling effect. It's taken a very long time. And this job market that we're in, it's been hard to find a job for, a year now, I would say. It's been really tight. That I think is going to loosen up. Now, what I'll say is I don't think it loosens up immediately. And I think that if you don't have a job right now, it feels pretty crappy. It feels like you're going to be waiting forever. And when I say, oh, this thing's going to happen in September, you're like, God, I've got to pay bills between now and September, and I need a job to do that. Here's what you can do in the meantime. I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice right now. The number 1, you need to get seen in the job stack. So when a job set is out there, there's a big stack of resumes and there's tons of people applying for the same jobs. We just saw the number of new unemployment claims go up. There's a ton of people applying for the same number of jobs or fewer jobs right now. So that competition for you as a job seeker goes up. You've got to find a way to get your resume to the top of the stack. The way that you do that is you emulate the language that they have in the actual job posting. You don't lie. You stick with what you actually did in your career, but you align the language to be the same sort of language that they have in the job posting itself. So if you are a director of marketing, for example, and you've been a director of marketing for a very long time, and the job that you're going for is director of digital advertising. You've done digital advertising in the past, but your title was actually director of marketing. Well, okay, just change it to digital advertising, right? That was a portion of what you did. It's in alignment and you can align with what they're asking. By doing that, you bring yourself up in relevance, and that's how resumes get sorted by recruiters. That's step number 1. Step number 2, lean on 2 different things. I'm going to tell you about the one that everybody can do, then about the one that is a little bit harder. Step number 2 is talk to a human. The first way to do that is that you find the hiring manager. I'm going to link a video here where I share a screen and show exactly how to find the hiring manager on a job. They give you little clues in the job postings that you can follow, and you can check out that video for details on exactly what it is. I share my screen. I make it super easy to follow, and you can do that as well. The other way that you do that is through referrals, working your network. And I would get into LinkedIn and start working that network as fast as I can. LinkedIn is really a great tool for you. And there'll be more to come on that. But getting referred in is actually the very best way to get hired. I would lean on that referral piece if I can. But again, not everybody gets to do that. So if you don't get to do that, do the hiring manager thing that I just told you about as well. Finally, when you get into the interview process, find a way to stand out, find a way to connect with the person that you're interviewing with and stand out in the way that you've had a conversation. You do that by doing a couple of different things. The biggest one, this is going to sound silly. It's not a big piece of work. It's not hard. It's easy for you to do. Send a follow-up thank you note, right? Just send a follow-up thank you note. You'd be amazed. I've had hiring managers decide which candidate to hire based on which person sent a thank you note, just because they took that extra little step and showed that they really wanted the job. So little bitty things like that can make you stand out, can bring you to mind again. So if you send a thank you note, they remember you, it refreshes you in their memory. So it's really worthwhile to do. Tiny little hint, tiny little trick, but you'd be surprised the dividends that can pay off for you. All right. Best of luck in your job search. It's getting tougher and tougher to find a job right now, but you can do it. This is on you. You've got a chance to do this still. Best of luck as you go forward.